Oh my gosh, you're listening to the Brian Sakowicz Show. Thank you very much for listening today. It's Monday, November 12th, 2012, and this is episode 2.5 now. I just realized I'm sitting here talking and talking and talking for the past 20 minutes, and I go to stop the recording, and I realize, oh my gosh, I never hit the record button. So this is actually my second time recording the show. Hopefully it'll be a little more interesting this time than the first time because I didn't really like it the first time. So there you go. It's a win-win for everybody. First thing I want to bring up today was last week was our election here in the United States. And we re-elected President Barack Obama for another 4 years as our president. I'm not going to tell you how I voted or if I voted at all. But just to say, congratulations to our president. And hopefully you have a great next 4 years and get some good stuff done. We need some help in our economy. I happen to note on election night, Fox News, they had Karl Rove, who at one time, I want to say he was an advisor or he ran President Bush's presidential campaign, the second President Bush's first presidential campaign. And he was on Fox News, and he was the other analyst that night. And at one point, all the networks are calling the election for President Obama. And Karl Rove was disputing the fact that how could Ohio go to the president? Well, it's Republican. I mean, your numbers are wrong. Where are you getting this information from? And the lady who was the Fox reporter that night looked at him and said, is this some kind of Republican math you do to make yourself feel better? And it was, wow. I actually gained a lot of respect for Fox News that time because they realized at that moment they could either decide to report the news or just stay with opinion. And they chose news, and it was quite a moment I think it was a very good moment for Fox. Not that I ever actually watched them, but that time I did. I actually watched my election night coverage on the Twit Network. They actually had live feeds, and it was kind of funny watching it because they were just talking about from a technology standpoint, and they were just sitting around drinking wine and beer and talking about the election. And it was actually quite enjoyable to watch, I gotta say. Better than watching tech or regular news where they're just trying to fill every second of airtime constantly. Next, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my beloved Buccaneers football team. I know on the last show I mentioned that I'm going to talk about the Buccaneers, whether you like it or not. And I even talked about just creating a special show just for talking about the Buccaneers. But I haven't found the time to do that yet, so I'm going to talk about it here. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the San Diego Chargers yesterday, and it was a pretty awesome game. Unfortunately, here in Central Florida, unless the Buccaneers sell out 85% of the seats in the stadium, they don't show them locally. Well, that's been a big problem for the past 2.5 years because the Buccaneers have really stunk and the economy's down, so people aren't buying. And the economy's extra down in Florida, to be honest with you. Unemployment's higher than a national average here. And Tampa Bay has felt a big brunt of it as well. So not selling as many tickets. Well, I live in Orlando, which is 75 miles away from Tampa, and we're still covered in the blackout zone for the football team. Annoying, yes, but I got to deal with it. And fortunately, I was able to find a feed over the internet from Europe, and I think it was actually from Spain. I was able to watch the game. Not as nice as watching it on my large screen plasma TV in the living room, but it works. Next week's game is a road game, so I'll get to watch that. But the Buccaneers looked really good this weekend. The defense was very suspect in the first half, gave up a lot of passing yards to Phillip Rivers. But Phillip Rivers had made a couple bonehead mistakes in the second half and finished themselves off. I mean, one, they were driving down where they could have at least kicked a field goal to tie the game. Threw it right into Tampa Bay defensive back's arms, and boom, he's gone. Touchdown Buccaneers. And I was ecstatic beyond measure, to say the least. So my Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 5-4 and looking pretty good right now. My Orlando Magic, on the other hand, do not look good at all. They are now 2-5 or 2-3. I'm sorry, or 2-4, something like that. They came out of the gate looking great. I mean, they thrashed two teams their first two nights, and they haven't done anything since. Granted, they're playing shorthanded. Their starting point guard, Jameer Nelson, has been out. He has a pulled groin muscle. Hito Turkoglu starting a small forward. He actually has a broken hand, so he's out for at least another month. Hopefully the Magic can get healthy and get back into it, because otherwise they look pretty depressing. They make runs and stuff, and they're fun to watch when they're looking good. But when they don't look good, man, they don't look good at all. They're a very young team, so they can only get better. But right now, it's just painful to watch. And a little bit of technology talk. Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. I know I mentioned it on last week's show, how I actually rooted and ROMmed my old Samsung Galaxy S phone and put on Android 4.1 Jelly Bean. Well, since that time, I've actually uninstalled that one, installed a different one, uninstalled that one, installed a Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, and then went back and put on a different version of Jelly Bean. I've had pretty much dismal battery life all around on that phone with it. The one I'm running right now has had the best battery life of any version I've done so far. So hopefully with battery management, I can get it better. If I don't use the phone at all, I mean, I can get like 3 days of battery life on it, but that does me no good. Once I start playing media files locally, like podcast files or music files that are stored on the phone itself, it chews up battery bad. If I stream audio over the internet, the battery drain is less, which I find bizarre in all respects, because it's using a radio to stream it. But it comes out being worse. So I'm still doing some research on it and everything. I would love to get this completely solved and give the phone to my wife, because she actually has the same kind of phone, but she's using Android 2.2 Froyo from a couple years ago, which works, but it's way out of date, and it's not a very elegant operating system at all. So it'd be great to get her up to the latest version of Android on there. Other news, Apple Computer, they settled their ongoing patent litigation with HTC, makers of great Android smartphones, such as my HTC Amaze 4G phone from T-Mobile. They both signed a 10-year cross-licensing agreement for their patents, so they will not be suing each other for the next 10 years over their patent portfolio. That's good news. Hopefully it means that at some point Samsung and Apple will come to the same agreement. And the last thing I really want to talk today about was dogs or cats. We have a cat. Her name is Truffles. Truffles is an awesome little kitty. Truffles actually showed up here at our house back after Hurricane Charlie. I want to say it was in 2004. So she's about 8 years old now. She actually showed up at our house like 1.5 weeks after the hurricane rolled through. We were lucky. Our house, we had no damage. Well, we lost a shingle from Hurricane Charlie. We had other people in our neighborhood lost parts of their roofs and stuff like that, but we lucked out there. So she comes showing up. We had this rickety old screen patio on the back of our house, and it had a rip in the screen. One night I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I look, my dog's going nuts, barking through the window, and there's this little kitten sitting there on my patio. Oh gosh, what do we do? So a day or so later, I shoo this cat out of my patio and toss her in the yard. She keep coming right back. So the next day, my wife and her brother, they load up the cat in a box. Take the box with the cat down to this playground in our neighborhood. It's about half a mile away. Drop the cat off at the playground, say bye-bye. Maybe some kid will find it. And they come home. Before they get to our house, the kitten is already back on my patio. It beat them from the playground back here. So I look at my dog and I say, listen, Ranger, this kitten here, it's up to you. Kitten's cute. I've never had a cat before. I'm like, if you want to keep the cat here, you just go ahead and play with it and let me know, and I'll introduce it to you. So I took Ranger out on a leash into our driveway, and the kitten had come around the front of the house. And, okay, Ranger, what do you want to do? Well, he walks up to the kitten and starts pushing her around with his nose and wagging his tail and rubbing on her, and the kitten's rubbing against him. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have a cat now. So we took her and got her fixed and cleaned up and got all our shots and everything. And she moved in with us. Funny extra story about that. A week later, we're hosting a Christmas party at our house, and she thought that would be a good night to go into heat. It was a strange thing. She just meow, 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 meow. And like, oh gosh. So we had to put her in the garage that night because she would not stop meowing. And then we took her to the vet the next day and got her fixed. Or it was Monday. It was a Saturday night, so on Monday we took her to the vet and got her fixed then, and she was fine after that. But our dog, he was 12 years old at the time. He's 75-pound, half German Shepherd, half Collie dog. And we ended up putting him to sleep 3 years later. It was like the summer before, about 3 months before my son was born. And my dog couldn't get up anymore and stuff, so we had to have him put to sleep, unfortunately. Now, Trouble's been with us all this time by herself. Just this past 2 weeks ago, opportunity presented itself for a new dog. It was a half German Shepherd, half, what was the kind of dog? Oh, Golden Retriever. Now, the lady who runs the rescue where these dogs were at told us that they'd probably end up around 90 pounds in size. It's a big dog, and I don't have a giant house or anything like that. But they were about 6 weeks old, these puppies and stuff, perfect size and everything. Saw the pictures of them, my heart melted. My wife and I talked and talked and talked long and hard about this. And after about a week of talking about it, we finally came to the decision that although I might be ready for a dog, I think, I know my son's really not. I know he wants one bad, but he's only 5, and he doesn't really have much responsibility or sense of responsibility at this time. So we told him our decision that we weren't going to get it yet and everything. So a day later, he comes to me and says, "Daddy, I think after the school year, I'm ready for a dog then." Okay. So I figure after the school year, my son will be turning 6. He'll be going into first grade. I think it will be the right time for a dog then. So we've got plenty of time to look. And we were feeling pressure about it too, because the dog was so adorable. We wanted a female dog too. And the female of the litter, nobody was getting. And it was like, oh my gosh, how is nobody getting this dog? So it took us a while before we finally said no. We were starting to think that maybe we were destined to get this puppy. But we held off on it, and I think we made the right choice because right now life is crazy, and I don't think I could put a dog in here with us as well. We are down to one car at this time because we have what is it? My transmission on my Nissan 200SX was slipping, so we need to get a new transmission for it. And I found a transmission for it for $250. I found a guy that would install it for $350. So Friday afternoon, I take the car over to him, leave the car with him. He's going to work on it Saturday morning. He works out of his own shop on the weekends. And I deliver the car. The next morning, he calls me and tells me, "I got a problem." I'm like, oh gosh, what kind of problem does he have? Well, come to find out, the company that sold me the wrong transmission. It was for a 1.6 liter Nissan, not a 2.0 liter Nissan. So Saturday morning, I'm scrambling to find a transmission. I found one, but it wasn't going to get delivered till this coming Tuesday. In the meantime, he'd already taken the transmission out of my car. And I'm like, oh man. So fortunately, we have our SUV, so I'm having to drive my wife to work and pick her up, and my son to school and pick him up, then do what I got to get done in the middle of the day work-wise and stuff. So it's been kind of a little bit of a challenge, but we're getting through it. Well, I want to thank you for listening to the Brian Sakowicz Show. Today's a little shorter episode. I'm still planning on doing this at least once a week. I'd rather do it 2 to 3 times a week, but let me get this much done first. My main goal in this is just to get more acclimated to talking by myself and talking more. Yeah, I've always wanted to do podcasts. I tried doing a podcast a couple years ago, and I was basically writing a script and reading directly from the script, and it sounded horrible. But I'm trying to teach myself to speak more off the cuff and more clearly, and enunciate well too. Because I know sometimes I'll start speaking fast. When I do, I'll start talking in slurred words and stuttering a little bit. Blah, blah. So my goal is to not do that. But if you did manage to listen to this, thank you very much. Otherwise, I apologize if you had to listen to it. Thanks again for listening to the Brian Sakowicz Show. Have a great day.